Hey everyone, it's Brandi from Brandi Stamps here today with a fun mermaid card. We're going to use the Magical Mermaid today and the Stampin' blends to give her some beautiful watery looking color. We're also going to create and make it into a shaker card. So we'll fill it with sequins and make it so you can move it around and be kind of an interactive project. If you like what you see, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment and a like so I'll know what you want to see next and what you love about this video. Our color palette for this card is Pretty Peacock and Mint Macaron, and then I'm using our Shimmer White cardstock. This white is a little bit different. It's thicker, extremely smooth, and I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but it has a definite shimmer to it when you see it in person and hold it in the light. And so this is especially fun for something like a mermaid that you maybe want kind of shimmery and pretty. And then it's also really nice for Stampin' blends, which we're going to use to color her in. So I'm starting with my Memento Black Ink Pad. This is the ink pad you want to use if you're ever working with the Stampin' blends alcohol markers. It's because this is a water-based ink pad, and those are alcohol-based markers, which are opposites, so you're going to get a good interaction instead of bleeding and smearing. So we'll just stamp her. Isn't she so pretty and detailed? For the inside of the shaker card, I want to use my Pretty Peacock and the words Mermaid Kisses and Starfish Wishes. How cute is that? And then we'll use the Mint Macaron Ink Pad. And there's this cute little kind of seaweed piece in the stamp set. The only part of this piece that's going to show is just a little circle for the shaker. So I'm going to make these kind of grow up along the sides of my words here, and then maybe show a tiny bit at the bottom too. And then for the actual inside of the card, I also want another shimmer white piece, so I'll just put a few. That's all the stamping we needed to do, so let's go ahead and do some coloring on our mermaid. I've got my So Saffron Dark and Light, my Mint Macaron Dark and Light, and then this is the Ivory. This is just our skin tone. So I'll start by laying down just one little layer of the Ivory skin color on her. Now I just use my brush tip to do all of that, and I can come back in and give her some dimension and stuff in a minute when I want to. Next, I'm going to use my Mint Macaron. I want to use the bullet tip. I'm going to come through here and pick and choose some scales. Just a few kind of thinner at the top. Till down here at the bottom, almost all of them are the darker green. And then I'm going to add a little dark color kind of along these lines as well. And I'll be coming back in to blend all of that with the light marker later. While I've got this, I'll add this little, she's kind of got a seaweed crown in her hair. Okay, let's worry about her hair next. I'm going to go for the light one first and just color all over with the light, and then we'll come back and make some of it darker. Okay, let's come back to our Ivory. We'll add her a little bit of contour. I think she's got some shadowing there under her arm, maybe at the small of her back. Okay, as promised, I'm going to grab my lighter Mint Macaron now, and I'm just going to color over everything. Last step, I want to come in with my darker So Saffron here. Again, I've got my bullet tip, and I'm just giving her some darker parts in her hair. Okay, she is looking great. And our next step is going to be to cut her out. She's a pretty simple one to cut out. And whenever I'm doing fussy cutting, I just cut close to, but not all the way up against the line of the stamped image. You can see I'm leaving about a 1/16 of an inch. You're going to want to use our Paper Snips, which are the awesomest scissors for cutting anything out. And then instead of trying to guide your scissors around the image, use your hand, this hand, to hold the paper and move it as needed. And then just go ahead and follow all the way around your image. She is ready. I'm going to use this circle from the Stitched Shapes framelits to cut this out. And so I'm not going to actually cut this piece, but what I'm doing right now is measuring approximately where I would want the window to be able to see this from the outside of my card. So you can see I want my framelit edge very, very close to the edge of my piece. And then up here, this part is about 3 lines or 3 notches down from the top of my cardstock. Let's just double check that here. See that? So I know top of the framelit is going to be about 3 notches down and the edge is very close to the edge. So now let's go to the piece I really am cutting. This is what's going to be on the front of my card. About 1, 2, 3 rows down and very close to the edge. So right about here. And I'll go ahead and put this in my embossing and die cutting machine and cut it out. Okay, so here it is all cut out. Let's compare it back with our stamped piece now. If these were lined up exactly on top of each other, that looks pretty good. Okay, and they essentially are. In between these 2 layers, we are going to have our card itself. So this will be on the underside and this will be on the front. So you can see I actually need to cut the same circle out of my Pretty Peacock card front. So what I'm going to do with this is just temporarily adhere it. I'm putting the tiniest bit of snail on those 2 corners, something like that. And now I can drop this framelit into the exact same spot and roll it. Okay, another step is going to be to dry emboss this layer. So that's why I wanted to just temporarily adhere it. And I'm going to put this in my subtle embossing folder. This is my go-to when I want a little texture, but I'm not sure if I want to add much in the way of design. I just use the subtle folder. It gives it a little texture. So here's what I've got. This piece is going to go right over the top right there. Before I adhere this down, I'm going to go ahead and tie a little ribbon around this layer. So I've got a 14-inch piece of my Mint Macaron ribbon. This has a tiny bit of shimmer to it, which is fun. And I'm just making a double knot. So I'm tying it twice. First time I went right over left. Second time I went left over right. Or possibly vice versa, I didn't keep track. And once you have that tied around, use some good sharp ribbon scissors to trim those ends fairly short. We can always adjust that later. And now this is ready to be adhered for real onto its card front. So I'm going to use a few glue dots. You can see these are the little bits where I had temporarily adhered that with snail. And there's the front of our card. To make a shaker card, you're always going to want a window sheet. These come in a pack of 12 by 12 inch pieces, and I have just cut a piece that's 3.5 by 3.5. And I want to glue it right over the top of this circle so that we have a window where we can see through to the inside of the card and we can see our sequins shaking. So I like to use my Tombow multi-glue to stick this onto the paper. So let me show you how I do that. Okay, so more in the corners, just little bits on the 4 sides because I know I don't have a ton of room for adhesive there. Then we're going to squish that down. We want to give this a minute to dry, so let's set that aside. Okay, while we're waiting, we can adhere with snail. This piece for the inside of the card. Okay, this is looking pretty good, almost totally dry. This white glue will go clear when it's dry. But our next step is going to be to grab our foam adhesive strips. These are long, sticky pop-up strips. And really, I feel like their main purpose is shaker cards. So you can just start anywhere along this circle, and you can go really quite close to the circle. You don't need to stress too much. But we are going to create a barrier for our sequins, or you can fill a shaker card with anything you want. You can put glitter inside there, little punch out shapes. A lot of our punches will punch small stars and hearts and pieces of confetti and things like that. Those are really cute for shaker cards too. And so I'm just creating a little wall around our circle. That can come off. You can see it didn't go all the way, so let's grab another strip. We'll come right next to where we ended. Paper Snips do a great job to trim these where needed. Okay, now I'm going to lay this entire piece on there, so I'm going to give the bottom somewhere to stick so it's not just floating. And we'll do the same thing up the top here. Okay, and now this is almost ready to stick down in place, but we need to fill our reservoir, and I'm going to use sequins. So I've got my iridescent sequin assortment here. These are almost gone. I've used them for a bunch of other projects. Let's go ahead. I'm going to reserve a few because I want to stick a few sequins on the front of my card too. And we'll just go ahead and dump the rest in here. So make sure you've got everything inside of your little wall, and flip this upside down so the pretty part will show through the window, and just line that up so it's centered, just like that. Okay, let's flip this over and see how it's looking. Oh my goodness, so cute. See how those are able to freely flow back and forth in that space, and the person who gets this card is going to have a lot of fun tilting it back and forth and looking at how cute that is. And now all we need to do is add our mermaid to the front, and of course a few little sequins. So let's use glue dots again. We'll put a few on the back of her. Now I just want her swimming up kind of right along, and let this tail kind of flow below where your bow is. Now is when you would want to look at how that bow is landing or how long those ends are and trim those. And then my last step is just to add a few sequins. And you can lay these out however you like them. I just take a few minutes to add a few here and there. Okay, I'm liking this placement. These sequins are not glued down yet. I've just sort of arranged them where I liked them. And now I'll use my fine tip glue pen to adhere them in place. This has a super teeny end where just a little bit of glue will come out. And I just go around and let a tiny drop of glue come out and lay the sequin on it. So I lift, drop, lay it back down. Just do that on all of them. It just takes a minute to go around. And that is it. Our shaker card is finished. Isn't that fun? I hope you've enjoyed learning how to make this project today. If you love this project, give me a like on the video and comment. Be sure to subscribe to Brandi Stamps, the YouTube channel. And remember, everything I use can be purchased at my store at brandistamps.com. Just click shop. See you next time. Happy stampin'.